Continuing our series in the world of Red Dead Redemption 2, we're moving on over to Chapter 3 of the title. Welcome, you're listening to Phil of Philby Gaming. This collection of videos is concentrated on the main mission aspect of the video game, not the side quests, although, if you wish, I also have another video detailing the facts about them too, which you'll find linked below in the video description. We'll be sticking to one fact per mission, that I believe some players may not have realised, and if you know of any that you think some people may not have noticed, be sure to let us know in the comment section provided. This could range from hidden dialogue, to past game references, and to real life inspirations, for example. If you enjoy what you see, be sure to hit like and subscribe, turn on notifications, and share with friends and family if you think content such as this would be something that they would like. With that being said, let's get into what we came here to see. Red Dead Redemption 2, one more fact from every mission, Chapter 3 edition. Soon after we arrive at Clemens Point and settle in, we quickly realise that Mrs. Sadie Adler has come out of her shell, a lot more than she had been in Horseshoe Overlook. She can be seen in a verbal brawl with the gang's cook, Pearson. Arthur is forced to intervene between the two and separate the dispute. After a short enough scene, both Arthur and Sadie head out to the nearby town of Rhodes in order to run some errands. In a previous video, I showed that if you followed Sadie into the store instead of directly heading to the post office, there is some missed dialogue, where we can witness Sadie ordering groceries for the gang. During this conversation with the clerk, Sadie introduces herself as Mrs. Kilgore, which is one of the aliases that the gang uses from time to time. But what some players may have missed is that after Arthur has finished in the post office, when returning to Sadie, we can listen to her further fabricate her backstory somewhat more. This is a little tricky to initiate as it has to be done from a distance, but with the use of mods, I'm able to show you guys.
I'm doing my best, ma'am.
I birthed foals with more strength than you. Hell, my sister's newborn had more strength than you and he came out bright blue.
I'm trying.
Try harder.
In the mission, the New South, Dutch informs Arthur that he needs a break from camp and to spend some time with the old guard, meaning himself, Arthur, and Hosea. The trio heads out with plans of a fishing trip. Shortly into their journey, they come across a prison transport wagon carrying multiple criminals, one of whom is the gang's associate, Josiah Trelawney. The other captives are a family of 4 known as the Anderson Boys. While the law are distracted, the boys manage to pick the lock and escape on a passing train. Upon Dutch's order, Arthur is prompted to chase down these 4 criminals and bring them to justice. Does this concept seem familiar to anyone, like they've experienced this before? For old school gamers who had the pleasure of playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas originally back on the PlayStation 2, you may remember a mission in the game titled Wrong Side of the Tracks, where our protagonist, Carl Johnson, is forced to take out 4 gang members from the rivaling Los Santos Vagos, who are atop a moving train. This mission in Red Dead Redemption 2 is a direct reference to the earlier title. After taking down the 4 criminals, Dutch believes he has formed a tie with the local law, mainly Sheriff Lee Gray. Catching the sheriff in a drunken state, Dutch easily manipulates him into allowing the gang to work alongside them, even going as far as having them temporarily deputized. The sheriff wants Dutch, Bill, and Arthur to follow the lead of his deputy, Archibald McGregor, in tracking down an illegal moonshine distillery. During the ride there, Archibald begins to talk about his uncle, who had a reputation in these parts. One specific thing he mentions is that the said uncle had a physical deformation, a tiny hand.
He had one tiny hand, like a child's, on the end of a grown man's arm. But anyway, this tells you what kind of people the Braithwaites are, selling moonshine to murderers.
What some players may have missed is that you travel just south of Calico Hall, home of the Grey family, you can find this very uncle, although he has seen better days. Back at camp, our very own lovable uncle has some information on the robbery of a stagecoach and wants only a small commission for this. Not having any of it and tired of his lazy ways, Arthur insists that the gang will only partake in this if Uncle tags along. Although fiercely unwilling, he does finally agree. So off they travel, Arthur, Bill, Charles and Uncle. After holding up the stagecoach, the gang quickly learn that they've once again robbed from the oil tycoon Leviticus Cornwall, and that there's a second guarded coach following the first. Under fire from more men than they can count, the four are forced to flee for their lives, eventually ducking into a barn upon the abandoned property of Compsonstead, and although choosing to hide until nightfall, Cornwall's men eventually catch their scent. Most who played this mission will know that when the hired guard enters the barn, Bill gives the game away by making a racket, leading to the firefight. But what some may not have noticed is that before this, when regaining full control over Arthur, he can be the first to act, taking out the Cornwall man. This will prompt the other gang members to react angrily, questioning Arthur's actions.
God damn it, Arthur! What was that? What happened to keep this calm, Arthur? They were sickest from finding us anyway.
Trying to find some information about the apparent hidden gold, Arthur visits Gallagher Hall. It's here, now for the second time, he sees a young man, Beau Gray. Beau needs Arthur to deliver a letter to his secret love, Penelope, from the rivaling Braithwaite family, in this parody of Romeo and Juliet. When meeting Penelope, she is currently reading before putting the book away to talk to Arthur. Something that may have eluded most players is the book itself, Jane Eyre. In a chapter of the book, Jane meets a peculiar lady who she first believes to be a beast. The poor lady had suffered a mental collapse and had been kept locked away due to her animalistic behaviour. This is a reference to Gertrude Braithwaite, Penelope's cousin, who just a short distance away has received a very similar treatment. After helping the young couple, we learn that Penelope is taking part in a rally for the suffrage of women. Beau fears for her safety and requests Arthur to tag along as protection. It's during a scene here, before heading into the town of Rhodes, that we meet a Miss Olive Calhoun, who intends to lead the rally. Things go relatively smoothly until a pair of bullies from the Gray family show up to confront Beau, thus ending our time here. The character of Miss Calhoun takes heavy inspiration from a real-life counterpart, Carrie Chapman Catt, who was the president of the National American Women's Suffrage Association from 1900 to 1904, and fought for many years to progress the rights of women. After previously clearing out the moonshine distillery, Bill was ordered to take the remaining product and stash it somewhere near camp. Later on, Abigail Roberts pulls you aside to inform you that John and Hosea are waiting for Arthur just outside of camp, at the stashed moonshine cart. What some may not have realised is that although short, you can skip this conversation entirely by heading straight there, providing you know its location. While at Clemens Point, Arthur can find young Lenny sitting by the water's edge. Inviting him over for a conversation, Lenny tells how he has learned of an old plantation house, Shady Belle, which is currently being used as a weapons cache of some sorts. Convinced that it's easy pickings, the pair head off to see what they can find. After a pretty hefty battle, Arthur and Lenny make off with the goods. Something that you may not have noticed is that there's a hidden piece of dialogue during the ride there. This will occur if Arthur had visited Shady Belle prior to this mission.
I think I see something. End of the avenue, between the trees. I might know this place. Old boys here are real tough.
Arthur has been asked to meet Hosea Matthews at the Braithwaite Manor to continue their work for the family. Catherine Braithwaite, the head, wants the gang to burn the tobacco fields of the rivaling Gray family as the feud continues. Arthur and young Sean Maguire head out to complete the task. Waiting patiently until nightfall, the pair complete this mission in what ends in a ferocious firefight. Near the start of this, as the pair arrive at Gallagher Hall, we are met by Hamish, one of the guards. But for those who choose to go back and replay this mission, you may notice that Hamish looks quite different to what you may remember. This is because each time the character model for Hamish is seemingly randomized. Earlier, when Dutch, Hosea and Arthur were intending on a fishing trip, they came across Josiah Trelawney, captured by the local law. This was in the mission titled The New South. After capturing the Anderson boys, the trio reunite with Josiah, who informs them that he's heard talk of super agents who are tracking the Vanderlyn gang. Later, when feeling a little nervous about the rumours, Dutch asks Arthur to track down Josiah. Charles Smith accompanies him. We quickly realise that our friend has been taken and must rescue him from a posse of bounty hunters. Upon completing this mission, depending on Arthur's honour rating, he will comment 2 different ways. If his honour is high, he will talk about the increasing civilization and how he wants to return to life in the open country. If it's low, he will say that there is more civilization now wherever he and the gang go, and that perhaps this is it from now on. After safely bringing Josiah to Clements Point, and he's had a little time to recover, he wants to repay the gang for rescuing him. In doing so, he has a way of obtaining information about stagecoaches. Arthur follows and we meet Alden, a train station clerk in the nearby town of Rhodes. Alden gives the duo information, and after a short ride, the pair pull off the heist and walk away with a nice tidy sum. On a side note, if the player has not purchased the lockbreaker previously, you will obtain one for free in this mission. Something that you may not have noticed is actually an animation before you trigger the mission. You can see that Josiah is practicing his deceiving ways in the form of a sleight of hand card trick. Right before we began the mission to burn the tobacco fields, we learned that although it was supposed to be John Marston helping Hosea, he was ordered another task instead. We later meet him at the stables of Gallagher Hall, where old Tavish Gray, the patriarch of the family, is having a conversation with both John and Javier Escuela. During this, we are told that the Braithwaite family have prized horses, worth up to $5,000. It's a simple snatch and grab mission that, as always, ends in a firefight. Before triggering the start of this mission, if you hang back a little, you can witness that Tavish Gray is suspicious of the town's new arrivals. This conversation will occur if the player has completed the Fine Joys of Tobacco with Sean Maguire, where we torched the Gray's fields.
We're good men, like you.
You don't know me. You turn up in town, you're helping everybody. And there's troubles everywhere. Bandits attacked my fields. Men getting killed. Just who are you?
That awful business was nothing to do with us. I like smoking tobacco, not recklessly burning it.
After the battle in Valentine, that closed chapter 2, as we know, the gang were forced to flee their original camp. A few of the gang members, Bill, Lenny and Karen, feel like they should have robbed the bank while they were still in that town. During a conversation with Arthur, they convince him to tag along, with his role being the vault man. This heist can go one of 2 ways, but eventually both end up in a gunfight during the escape. There's a small hidden dialogue in this mission with Lenny. This will only occur if the player has completed the Preaching Forgiveness mission, where Arthur and Lenny cleared out Shady Belle.
You did well with that gang at Shady Belle.
Yeah, thanks. And I heard the rest of them have moved on from there now, so we must have sent enough of a message.
I reckon so.
I ain't lose much sleep over them fellas.
Me neither.
They'd have loved nothing more than to strang me up.
That weren't gonna happen.
Not through lack of trying.
You. You'll outlive a lot of us. Good haul, too. That dynamite should come in real useful today.
Yeah, if we can even get near the bank without someone recognizing us and raising hell.
Well, we'll have to see about that. Just keep your eyes open.
The long feud between Dutch van der Linde and Colm O'Driscoll may be finally coming to an end. Colm wants to make peace. Dutch, feeling that it may be an ambush, doesn't want to take the entire gang along in case they're all wiped out, so instead he brings along just Arthur and Micah Bell. After a tense conversation between the two gang leaders, we quickly learn that Dutch was right to be suspicious, as Arthur is knocked out cold and kidnapped by the O'Driscolls. After trying to escape his captivity the first time and taking a bullet for his troubles, Arthur is later transported on the back of a horse to his final halting cell. It's during this transport that there appears to be some cut content from the title. While on the steed, drifting in and out of consciousness, if the player is to enter the pause menu, you will notice in the bottom right hand corner there are two button prompts, one to break free and one to give up. Whilst meeting with Bill, Micah and Sean in a town of Rhodes, the posse of four are looking to provide some security work for the Grey family. During the slow stroll through the town, players may notice that there are no stores open and that the populace is very limited. Only a few strong-looking armed men are around. This is an indication that the thing is a setup, but that's not what I wanted to show you. What I think some may have missed is right before you begin the conversation with the gang, triggering the mission. If you look to where the gang have hitched their horses, you will notice that there are only two, Brown Jack belonging to Bill and Baylock belonging to Micah. Sean's horse, Ennis, is nowhere to be seen. This is an early indication of his outcome. After learning that young Jack has been taken and all fingers pointing to the Braithwaite family, the gang head to their estate in a strong and determined formation. With the family unwilling to be peaceful, Dutch opens fire and orders the gang to launch an assault. A heavy fight ensues, putting an end to both the Braithwaite family and their homestead. We learn that Jack has been transported to one Angelo Bronte, meaning that our time in Clements Point is soon coming to an end. Something that is easily missed during this mission is just as you first enter. In the room to the left, sat upon the fireplace, is a gold shield containing the crest of the Braithwaite family. The gang's time in Clements Point has come to an end, as the Pinkerton Detective Agency have finally caught up with them. Arthur informs Dutch that he knows of an old house hidden away pretty well. He is referring to the Shady Belle Manor that himself and Lenny discovered earlier in the chapter. Dutch sends both Arthur and John to scope it out. Upon arriving, we learn that a few stragglers have arrived and need clearing out. One of these men, just as you enter the manor, has the unfortunate mishap of running out of bullets and attempts to throw his weapon at Arthur. If you're feeling generous, Arthur can spare him and he will tell him to leave before continuing on and dealing with the rest of the occupants.
Die! Oh, shit! Get out of here! Now, go!
Okay, I'm going.
You've been listening to Phil of Philby Gaming, and that was one more fact from every mission, Chapter 3 edition. If you need to get in touch, you can do so by following my Instagram account, that's at Philby Gaming. Did you enjoy what you saw today? Be sure to hit like and subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in Chapter 4.